Thank you very much, Betty, for the nice introduction. We will talk today about bringing consumer insights in your pocket and giving access to consumer insights to everyone within organizations. But first, a short intro. If you listen to what people talk about at conferences nowadays, at research conferences, people talk a lot about automation and artificial intelligence. I think we could say that it are two of the buzzwords of the moment. And I think those two concepts will have a big impact on the future of the market research industry. I think in the last couple of decades, we saw a couple of big kind of trends and a big kind of shifts. We had the shift towards online and digital. We had the revolution that social media caused. We had mobile entering our field, and they all shifted things in our industry. But I think what automation and artificial intelligence will do to our profession will be far bigger. It will be far more disruptive. And if you listen to Ray, he says that 75% of what we're doing today will be probably replaced by automation and AI. So it's quite logic that lots of people are a little bit scared. What will this do to our profession? What will this do to the jobs we have within market research? And if you look at history, we see that every time a new technology is entering our lives, we are a little bit scared. That was there when steam engines popped up. It was there when electricity came into our lives. It was there when the internet started to become very relevant to all of us. And again, now that artificial intelligence is there, we are wondering what will this do to us and to our lives and to our jobs. And it's quite logic, I think, that we are a little bit afraid. But I'm quite an optimist, and I think that if we look at artificial intelligence, it will be great. It will help us to do the things we want to do, because the things that are quite repetitive, that are of not a lot of additional value and added value, those will be taken over by machines. Machines who will automate those kind of repetitive tasks. And when we look at the possibilities that AI will bring us, well, I think it will help us to augment our own intelligence. Collaborating with artificial intelligent computers, collaborating as a human with machines will help us probably to do things that were just not possible before. Then you can say, well, Tom, that's all great. Machines will help us to become more efficient. Machines will help us to do things we could just not do before. Machines will actually allow us to do the things we really love to do, will help us to focus on the things that add value. But is that already possible today? Are machines already capable of doing that? Well, there I think it's still early days. Although you hear all the beautiful stories in the news about machines doing wonderful things, I think it's still early days. It's still early days for artificial intelligence. But that shouldn't hold us back from already experimenting with it. Because maybe it's disappointing today what it can do, but very soon it can have an impact on our profession and also on how our companies perform. Because those technologies get better almost by the day, get cheaper also almost by the day. They grow exponentially, and that's why it's so important to already today experiment with it. If we want to be ready for tomorrow, we should start with experiments today. Although we know that probably those experiments will still be a little bit disappointing. It's like getting ready for it. It's playing with it to be ready when it's really there, when all those things that you read about are really possible on a massive scale. And that's what we actually are doing now at Insights Consulting. We are experimenting with artificial intelligence. We try to see what can it do for us. And the case or the kind of experiment that we are about to share with you right now is where we use artificial intelligence to bring insights into the pockets of every single employee, to activate insights within organizations. And we are combining it with one of those other trends, the future of computer interfaces, the future of communication with machines, and that are chatbots. So Jilke will introduce to you Galvin, our artificial intelligent chatbot that should allow people within organizations to get access to consumer insights wherever they are and whenever they want.
Thank you, Tom. So how did we get here? How did we create Galvin? Well, when we were looking at all the changes in the industry and in the technology, we were really looking forward to work with artificial intelligence. And we were wondering, how could artificial intelligence help us today with our job in the research industry? Well, as the researchers that we are, we looked first at the needs and the struggles of consumer insights managers, or clients. And one of their biggest struggles was how they let their research flow into the organization, because too often sharing insights was limited to a small group of employees in a one-day workshop. And afterwards, the research was shared, but actually locked up in PowerPoint reports. And yes, how many of you are eager to read a 100 slides counting PowerPoints? Not too much, I think. So, like blogs, like news, like articles, consumer research too should become shorter, more personal, and be there at the time you need it. And here is where we see the true value of artificial intelligence in our industry. So with Galvin, our chatbots, we saw it as your personal assistant for market research. And like Tom said, in only a few seconds, it can provide you the insights that you are looking for in a snappy and a visual way. So how does it work? Well, Galvin is connected to our internal studio platform. And on this interactive platform that is shared within a company, we share curated insights from previous studies, and their employees can build upon them by adding comments, adding additional observations, and even IDs. So all this content is gathered on the studio platform and is used as a database for Galvin. And then, with the help of two software programs, Lewis IA, which gives Galvin a smart search, and Cortana, which will give it its personality, Galvin is then able to read, understand, and search the insights and give them to you when you need it. And not just by providing them as a standard search routine, like the normal search platforms do, but by starting a conversation with you. And then with the smart search and by letting you ask additional questions, Galvin gives you the insights that are most valuable, most interesting for you. And this can happen on your usual conversational platforms like Messenger, Slack, Skype. So it will bring the consumer research closer to you in your daily routine. So not only in the work environment, but also off work, just when you need it, when you're on the go, when you're waking up, consumer research is there for you if you want it. And before you know, you can use Galvin as you use Google, so as the perfect assistant for all your research questions. But how can we use this chatbots? Well, we identified 3 ways on how we can use Galvin. So, how would you feel to chat with your consumer anytime, anywhere you want? Well, with Galvin, you are one step closer in doing so, because if you have created consumer persona in previous research, Galvin is able to impersonate them and answers your questions from that role. For example, one of the consumer persona that we had with MasterCard was Anne, the working mom. Galvin can impersonate Anne, share her stories of her average life, share her struggles, her frustrations, and also answers the questions that you have. For example, maybe you wonder if she'll struggle with her work-life balance. You can ask her, or you can ask Galvin, and Galvin will answer from that role. So instead of just reading the insights, it makes it much more personal. It's like feeling, it will feel like you're talking to an actual person. It's like having a consumer in your pocket. Well, that's not all that we can do with Galvin, of course, because next to impersonating the consumer, there are two other ways on how Galvin adds value in our industry. Well, first, it can also become your coach in creating a consumer-connected mindset. So with daily, fresh, and new inspirations on the topics that inspire you, it can give you a 5-minute update on what's happening in the consumer world. So maybe you're interested in everything that's happening with millennials, all the research that you can find about millennials. Well, you can Galvin can give you a daily update every morning on that. So this can also be the start of a consumer thinking habit. And the last way how we see that Galvin adds value in the research industry today is that it can be your personal assistant. So maybe you're in a meeting or in an urgent need of a specific insights. So there's no time to rush out to the CMI team or to browse through endless PowerPoint reports yourself. There's just no time for that. But with Galvin, you don't have to worry because it will provide you the right insights anywhere, anytime. So maybe you have a very important meeting on packaging. You have to create a new packaging for your products. But one thing that you want to know before is, what did we learn from previous research? You remember that there was something very important, but you just cannot grasp it. And there's absolutely no time to ask someone or to look for it yourself. So you just pull out your mobile, ask Galvin, what do we know about packaging? And Galvin will remind you that, for example, the key benefits of your product should be shared in a visual way. So, updated with this knowledge, you can enter your meeting room and improve your decisions based on that. So, as you can see, there are already different ways to use Galvin. But we also know it's still a baby chatbot. There's so much more to discover. And right now, what can Galvin do? It can answer your questions. It can update you with its daily digest or provide you with inspiration. But what can it do for us tomorrow? Well, first of all, we will make Galvin smarter. It will have a larger memory, making it able to remember your previous questions. And answering questions will also become better, as Galvin will understand the context of the insights and research in a better way. And as the perfect assistant, it will also make proactive suggestions, making your professional life a lot easier. Next, we will also work on its personality, because although it's nice to have a conversation, we are always reminded that bots are just that. They're bots. They're software. It feels like a conversation, but it's not just that yet. Well, we see in the near future that Galvin will become more human, we will give it more personality, and also the option to feel like it's an actual consumer you are talking with. And the last step in the near future that we see is also voice control, because just like Siri, Amazon Echo, OK Google, we believe that the future of bots lies in a true conversation. So no more issues with small keyboards, but just asking your questions and immediately receiving the answers. This was already the case in the movie Her, where we see that the main character chats with his bots, with his computer, Samantha, on a daily basis. She feels so real, so human, that he actually falls in love with her. Well, who knows, maybe soon you will talk to Galvin in the same way. Not with the love, but just the conversational interface. Anyway, we believe that this future will not take that long anymore.
And we also believe that if this is the future, if we will have chats with a AI chatbot like Galvin in order to get access to all our insights, that we maybe don't need those boring PowerPoint reports anymore. We maybe don't need to torture our clients anymore with 100 PowerPoint slides, because this is probably a new way of interacting with insights. It's a new way of interacting with the consumer world. So we actually have a challenge for you. And the challenge is, can we make that by 2020 we are not reporting in PowerPoint anymore, but we find other and creative solutions to get insights to the people within organizations that need them. It can be a chatbot like Galvin, but there are probably a lot of other ways in which we can do that. And finally, wouldn't it be great if every CMI person around the world gets a bot like Galvin as their kind of personal assistant to activate insights within their organization? So yes, this is an early on experiment. We're experimenting with bots, with conversational interfaces. We're experimenting with artificial intelligence. And yes, the world is not perfect, but people are already making use of it. People are already finding it very interesting, and the future can only be bright. Thank you very much for listening, and looking forward to your questions.